to talk about this thing. Conflict resolutions. When is enough enough? In any relationship, there's bound to be conflict. Hey, welcome to Bishop's Corner. Once again, we are talking at a time when many of us in America have been so tense. We just received the election results, and I have a good friend of mine, David Ogega. He is here. He's been in this country for many years, longer than I have. He's an informed gentleman, and we share a lot of things in common. He's a good friend. David, how are you, sir?
Good, Reverend. Nice to see you.
Are you calm after the elections? Can you believe what has happened in the U.S.?
Gosh, yeah, I can believe based on a lot of that, what we've gone through over the years. Anything is possible. You know that saying they say, only in America?
Only in America. Did you believe that you get the election before midnight? By midnight, they had gotten to know who the U.S. president is, right?
Yes, and I think, of course, it was supposed to be, very close.
Yes.
That's what the polls were showing before, of course, the true results came out. But like everybody else, I was surprised that by midnight, you kind of had a sense of where this thing is heading. And you could tell even by the candidates themselves.
Oh boy. It's a new dawn for America.
Yes, it is.
Trump is back.
Can you
President Trump is back. I know we're going to talk about this in a minute, but it's just a new dawn. The whole world was watching, and there are people still pinching their knives to wonder whether it's a reality or not. But
it's true. Like I said, only in America. But I think for those of us that didn't even think that was possible.
Yes.
We can go back, 8 years back?
Yes.
2016?
With the Clinton and
Trump again.
And Trump.
Yeah, but I think this time around, this thing is not as bad. I remember a lot of people were crying.
You think it's not as bad as during Hillary? That was worse?
I think so. The shock back then, it was a lot of people took Trump for a joke. Nobody's talking to him.
I know, we made fun. We didn't know this guy would go anywhere. But anyway, David has been here in the U.S. since 1991. Did you tell me that?
Somewhere around there.
I came here in 1996.
I was a teenager when I came here.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so
you came here for school, right?
Right.
And you went to Kennesaw State University.
I did.
He's a finance major. This guy knows few things, and I like, because of your passion about Kenyan politics that goes on here, and we're going to talk about politics in the U.S. and maybe how it impacts Kenya.
Yeah.
And the voice, and the thing we're going to talk about is it human voice or is it God's voice in as far as politics is concerned? Right. And I'm going to introduce a gentleman here. His name is Benin. Benin is an African American and has been to Kenya. Actually, we gave him the name Mwangi.
Oh, Mwangi.
He's been to Kenya.
Oh, good.
And I'm calling him because he is quite conversant with the politics here in the U.S. and he relocated to Florida. Mm-hmm. And I had told him that I'm going to call him so that we can have a conversation here. And I'm sure we'll be informed. Oh boy. Trump is back.
Trump is back.
This is beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have fun as you watch this. And I'm calling our friend Benin. Hey, Benin.
Hey.
How are you, sir?
Good.
It's nice to hear your voice. How is Florida?
It's better now.
What makes it better? Because Trump has won, or what?
But if you had asked me like 3 weeks ago, I would have said it's horrible. But it's good now. Things are getting back on track. Everybody got affected by Milton, and before that,
the storms.
Yeah, those storms can be pretty severe.
Do you think Trump coming back is a political storm that has calmed down, or what?
Yeah, of sorts. Yeah, I guess you could look at it like that. It was a it was it's very major. Very, very, very major.
I have a gentleman here by the name of David. David is a friend of mine. He is here. He actually, I just discovered that he came to the U.S. earlier than I did, early 90s, and he loves politics. He's a finance major, and I told him that we're going to be reaching out to you because you know a bit of Kenya politics, and I really value your interest in politics. You know, you educated me sometimes earlier on about how the two political parties kind of operate, how they overlap and all that. Let me ask you this. Do you think America is in shock about Trump coming back, or were you expecting this result?
Oh, so yes, I think if you had asked me this like a couple of months ago, I would have been shocked.
Right.
But since since July, since the assassination attempt, I've noticed some trends that seem to be pointing in this direction. So I wasn't that surprised, to be honest with you. Right. Especially, the last couple of weeks going into the election.
Right.
It seemed like the tea leaves were kind of pointing in this direction,
Yeah. Now, did the media, listen to the media, they said this elections are going to be too close. But at the end of it all, David, did it look too close? It looks like it was
almost a wipeout when you look at it, especially on the Electoral College votes that Trump has garnered thus far. It's I think by this evening it was close to 300. That's a landslide.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So here's what happened. Here's why I feel like the victory ended up being more lopsided, is because when you start being more lopsided, is because when you start getting into people's pocketbooks,
right,
people respond differently. And I feel like what happened is that there's this phenomena where people are not always that forthcoming about who they're going to vote for.
Right.
Sometimes, people are human. People are fallible. So you ask a person and they know that they're going to be quoted. They might tell you that, I'm going to vote for Kamala, or I'm going to vote for Biden. But in the back of their mind, they're thinking, no, I'm really going to vote for Trump. But I just want to play it safe in the public arena, And I feel like there was a lot of that that took place this time. Plus, also, the way that polling works, I don't know if you're aware, but it relies on phone calls.
Oh, yeah?
And yes, it relies on phone calls. And particularly, the way that it used to be done is landline phones. And of course, today, how many people still have those, right? So what I've always been told, and what I've always heard, is that Republican voters in general tend not to answer solicitations.
Okay.
And also, if you look at the demographic that makes up the thrust of the Republican Party, it's Gen X and boomers and young boomers. Gen X and young boomers make up the core of it, and they tend to be a more skeptical bunch about someone calling that doesn't show up on their caller ID, or they show up as unknown, blocked, or whatever. So it's a harder group of people to get a hold of on the phone.
Wow. Did you know that, David?
Yeah, from listening, I'm in agreement with you, Benin, because a lot of what you said is what I'm hearing too. That Republicans generally they're not reachable. So that skews the polling.
Right.
So that's what throws it off. And then you have the case of the Gen Zs that you talked about, Benin, that maybe you would think, they're more malleable and in fighting for democracy in that sense. But then they have the lowest propensity to vote. These young people, I'll get there if I get there. That's the attitude. Right. So, and I think in this sense, Democrats, maybe Kamala's folks put so much weight on Gen Zs. You can reach them over the cell phone.
But are the Gen Z more liberal? Would you think that would skew towards Democrat?
You would think, but the problem is
you would think so.
They have a low propensity to vote, in meaning they're not reliable.
Okay.
They can tell you, oh yes, I'm going to vote, but
they don't show up.
They don't show up. The boomers and the Gen Ys, they will show up, because they know what it means.
Okay.
But the younger folks, I don't think they subscribe to that sense of what being able to vote.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And what the analysts thought would happen is the analysts were correct on one thing. They caught that Kamala's her coalition was based around women. She had a very, very, very high women turnout.
Okay.
But the thing from what I recall from just looking at the numbers, the women that were really, really voting for her aggressively they tended to be either single young women.
Okay.
Right? Single young women or highly educated women.
Okay.
So those two groups really gravitated to her, but it was not enough to compensate for what she lost with the men. The men heavily supported Trump, and then also she lost. Something different happened this election cycle that we haven't seen happen, which is Hispanics broke very heavily in favor of Trump.
That's what I found out.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and from what I've been told, it's the economy that they really keyed in on.
Okay.
That's the thing that really turned them out is the economy, and I feel like what hurt Kamala's campaign is when she said that she didn't see anything different about her administration versus the Biden administration.
Yeah.
I think the signal that sent to voters who are on the sidelines or just maybe undecided is, so the economy is going to stay the same.
It's a continuation of Benin.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also the smaller story, this is a little bit smaller, but it's still significant, is a larger portion of black men either decided to not vote at all this time or to vote for Trump.
Right. What?
Yep. So Trump, like the Republican Party typically gets 12% of the black vote. Trump got 24%.
Oh boy. So the black carrot did not work this time, like having a black woman. That did not sell it.
That did not sell it. And again, I think it really comes back down to the pocketbook. Like, when people are struggling,
yes,
they think differently. Also, here's something else that's really, really interesting about it. When you look at the you start uncovering the layers, right, of who Trump really won over heavily. There's another group that he won over that I think really just led to the landslide.
Right.
He won the Catholic vote by 15%.
Whoa.
15% more Catholics, which a lot of people don't know this, but America has a very, Catholic population here, or the Catholic portion of the Christian population in America, is very, very large. And it also includes Hispanics as well.
Ah. Does that have to do with your Kamala's propagation about the reproduction, all those stuff?
I think it does. I think you do have to consider that. I think when it comes to that topic, they tend to be the most vocal. They're much more vocal than what we call evangelicals.
Right.
Yes.
When it comes to abortion, and
Right.
and I think it's across the board. Black, Catholics, white, Hispanic, they tend to have a very similar value system for what I've seen.
Extremely conservative.
Benin, you've been to Kenya. I'm going to ask David this question. Where did the Kenyans or immigrants from African descent kind of lean towards, and why? And then we'll have Benin respond to that, because Benin knows a little bit about the Kenyan politics. And do we even look at the ideologies that the Republican or the Democrats hold? Where did most Kenyans or African, what informs their decision?
No, that's a very interesting question, Bishop, because from what I've seen, and the groups that I belong to, which are many,
right,
whether WhatsApp groups or social media or some of the influences that I participate in,
right.
Believe you me, a lot of our people were actually gravitated toward Trump.
Are you serious?
More so than Kamala, and I couldn't understand it.
Are you kidding me?
Yes, yes. So at first I was thinking that maybe it's because they've, you know how political divisions are in Kenya.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Our people are very partisan.
Yes.
We have the Ruto government in place now.
Right.
And at first I was sensing that the Ruto folks were more gravitating toward
Democrat.
No,
Republican.
Republican, Trump.
Wow.
But then I've come to find out that no, it wasn't just them.
No.
But the most vocal ones that I was a part of were actually pro-Trump, more so than those that were pro Kamala.
What would inform them to do that?
I don't know, because you would think as immigrants, based on the threats that Trump has issued, what he's going to do to immigrants, that maybe, they would, out of fear maybe, or of just self-preservation, they might say, I want to vote for Kamala because she speaks to my interests.
And it's a child of an immigrant.
Yeah,
for that matter.
A black woman, a child of an immigrant. But it's like it shocked me too. It was disproportionately more toward Trump than it was Kamala. So there's some that have attributed that to maybe it's race, but no, we're Africans, of course. It has nothing to do with race.
Right.
Maybe it's misogyny. Like we don't like a woman leader. And
I will spoke to that too, because I think when you are still there, and I know once we release Benin, we're going to talk about that. Do you think, Benin, that America is ready for a woman president, leave alone black woman?
That's a good question. I was speaking with my wife about that earlier. And, I thought that we were, but, it perhaps maybe just not this one. On the other hand, we've never. Yeah,
I like that. Not this one.
But in fairness, she was thrown into this thing.
Not this one. Okay.
But it is a really good observation, though, and I do believe that it will happen at some point. But I think for it to happen, things have to line up in a way that's different.
Right.
Like, there's another component that I see in this conversation about Trump.
Right.
And if you don't mind me indulging you a little bit on this,
yes,
I feel like okay, so I was never I'm more to the right of independent, right?
I know.
But I was never big on Trump, and I didn't really go for him in prior elections, right?
Yes.
But something changed after the assassination attempt. After the assassination attempt, I started looking at it, and I was like, wow, like, you mean if the guy, if he hadn't turned his head at that exact moment, he would not be here.
Yes.
Right? And then there was a second attempt after that.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, man, that can't be an accident. Then when you look at all of the all of the intrigue with the legal stuff,
right?
You look at they say that this man is the most investigated person in history.
Right.
Not just U.S. intelligence, but intelligence from all the major superpowers have been investigating him, trying to find something. Right.
Right.
And somehow like he keeps on going. And at a certain point, I started saying, man, maybe it's God. Like the first time I heard, in 2016. I'll be honest with you. When I saw the pastors who were supporting him, I was like, "What is going on here? What do they see in him? Because I'm whatever it is, I'm just not seeing it."
Right.
But after that attempt, I noticed a change in his tone, his rhetoric. I noticed kind of a more subdued, maybe not subdued, but just a different energy from him.
Right.
And I started thinking maybe this might be the hand of God. Like, I don't know why God does what he does, but it looks like there could be some spiritual component to it also, because how can all of these, like, okay, so if you think about it, right? I truly believe that if Biden had stayed in, I think he probably could have won, because Biden has a lot of popularity in Pennsylvania, right? Oh yeah. Biden is very popular in Pennsylvania. Not only is he popular in Pennsylvania, but if you look at how the election turned out in 2020, those Rust Belt states that Trump won, Biden took those states, right? Wisconsin, he took Pennsylvania,
right?
And I feel like, okay, I know he was diminished. His mental capacity seems like it's definitely going downhill over especially the last year.
Right.
But like, if you look at it from a big picture perspective, right? After the debate, everyone started telling him that he should drop out.
Yes.
He was very adamant that he wanted to stay in the race.
Right.
And somehow they twisted his arm, and I felt like he did not want to go, but he did because, all the pressure he was getting. And what they did, do you all know why they chose Kamala?
Tell us.
They chose her because of the campaign finance rules. So his campaign had raised a lot of cash.
Yes.
And if they had tried to go a different route, like go with someone outside of the administration, they would have faced the hurdle of having to come from behind with a few months left and raise money all over again. They wouldn't be able to have access to what Biden had raised.
They could not have donated that money to a newcomer.
They could have raised donations, but not to the extent of what was in Biden's coffers already.
Okay.
You see what I mean? So because she was part of the administration, she was able to tap into the funds that were already in his campaign accounts.
Wow. So you believe that Benin would have bounced back? David, do you think that he would have bounced back?
Actually, I do.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but given the choices between Biden and Trump, and all things being equal, and it's true. I mean, his mental acuity was declining, obviously. But I think a lot of Americans were willing to look aside, look the other way, and give him an opportunity. Maybe not to the extent that
he would have done better than Kamala.
I think so, because
I think so.
Yes, it might not have won outright, but this is the first time for all 3 times that Trump has run that he won the popular vote.
Yes,
not once before, but this time he did. But then when you look at the numbers, the totality of the votes, they were below what they were in 2020.
That's right. They were below, far below. They were far below.
So that tells me the enthusiasm folks had for Biden was much greater, and it was only fueled because it was anti-Trump at that time, I believe.
Yes,
and I don't think Trump did himself any favors over the years, from the January 6th incident, and all through all these other things and the things he's been saying. So I think that people would have tolerated.
And as Benin saying, seeing Trump having gone through all those atrocities, the accusation, somebody say, how do you gonna elect a convict? And the assassination, and then the heavens are still for Trump, and people are wondering what's going on. Things that are beyond our comprehension. Before we let you go, Benin, I would like you to comment on 2 things. One, what will be the effects of Trump coming back in as far as the geopolitical issues are concerned? And do you think that Kamala should stay on, knowing that Trump is not going to look for more re-election? Do you think she has a chance, or should the Democrat Party look for another partner? And what does Trump coming back has to do with the geopolitical, the issues, especially in the Middle East?
Okay. So I think that the interesting thing about Trump is he automatically starts as a lame duck president, because he's, after this he terms out, but also something about him that's unique is he's 78. Yes. So he's in what you call the 4th quarter, right? Yes. According to our lifespans that we tend to have in the States.
Right.
So I think there's another politician right now who is in a similar situation to that, and that person is the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Okay.
I want to say they're age mates, right?
Oh yeah.
And what I've noticed about him this last year or so is that he has been very emboldened to just to just push the envelope as far as he can. And I feel like when you're at that point in your life where that pretty soon you're gonna probably be leaving,
right?
You tend to leave everything on the field, right? And I think that's kind of what I'm expecting to see from Trump. Okay. I think that he, in his first term, he made a lot of mistakes.
Right.
One of them, he admitted, and this is one of the things that I noticed. Like, I've never heard him before say that he made mistakes or he's done anything wrong.
Right.
But about a month or 2 ago, he did an interview and he said, "Yeah, I made some mistakes." He said, "The biggest mistake that I made is personnel." He said, I admit that I made some bad personnel choices in my first administration. And he said it was partly because I was an outsider. I didn't know anyone I knew people, but I didn't know people like politicians, like the politicians did. And I think that that's something that he's already shown that he's willing to do differently. And why I say that is Robert F. Kennedy is not a Republican, right? He's an independent.
Right.
And this guy he's actually a Democrat, but lately he's been kind of acting more of an independent. So he's going to be part of the administration. I think he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be like a surgeon general, but he's going to have something to do with health. Right. It looks like Tulsi Gabbard, who is a Democrat, is also going to possibly be part of his administration, as well as Elon Musk, None of those people are conservative or, anyone that you would consider a traditional Republican. So I think that something that he's going to do differently is he will probably call more on his gut more and trust his intuition more in this administration,
right?
Particularly when it comes to personnel. And the other thing that I can see him doing that's going to put his stamp on things, and he's already done it, which is the media. I think his re-election really shakes up the mainstream media in America in a way that, I don't know if we'll really know the effects of it for a while, but I know it's going to be pretty big.
Right.
Because if you look at the type of coverage, positive and negative coverage that was put out there, somehow his messaging just broke through all of it. And it basically, I think it creates a totally new realignment, right? And what it it shifts the balance of power more in the favor of like independent voices, like Joe Rogan, people like that. Those people are going to come away as winners from this.
Right.
As far as Kamala, I think that the Democrats have already started to throw her under the bus. And yep, I'm already starting to see different comments coming from other political insiders that's saying, maybe we should have done something differently, and definitely maybe she should have chosen someone differently besides Tim Walz.
Okay.
The person that was floated initially for her VP pick was Josh Shapiro.
Right. Okay.
He's the governor of the state of Pennsylvania. I believe that if she had chosen him, they definitely would have won Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Definitely. 100%.
Wow.
100%. So to be honest with you, I don't see her being able to withstand this.
Wow.
And still come out like at the top of the party, like as a major power broker. I just don't see it.
When you compare Kamala and Hillary, who came out better?
What can you
Clinton,
kind of
Hillary? I mean, as a presidential candidate, who had a better chance, Kamala or Hillary Clinton?
If you ask me,
yes,
it was Hillary.
Hillary, you think so?
Yeah, because even outwardly, without even considering the nuances between the candidacies. I mean, Hillary won the popular vote.
He did, yeah, she did.
She did. Kamala didn't. And then Hillary had all this war machine over the years. Name recognition, the husband.
She's been a Secretary of State.
Yeah, and then
well exposed.
Yes, and she had all this time to prepare for the campaign. She had a full-on campaign.
Yeah.
Relative to Kamala. I mean, Kamala really sprung into the scene because of that initial what they did, the thing they did, debate with Trump. So, in fairness, I mean, you could say Kamala, she was thrown into it, not prepared for it. If you remember in 2020, even when they were doing the primary, she didn't do very well. She didn't. Yeah, she didn't. She didn't even go through the first state primary.
Do you think Kamala coming in had everything to do with Joe Biden because he was quick to endorse her?
He had no choice.
He had no choice?
He had no choice.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
The machinery behind it. I was pro-Joe from the get-go. I mean, it saddened me, when he announced it. I mean, I saw even the pundits on the news, they were not happy. I mean,
but was there any time? Was there a time, David, to get a new person out there? Was it easier that you had somebody in the establishment?
No, I don't think so. Just like Benin alluded to, I mean, it was one of those, and I think they were smart in the sense that they wanted to, debates don't happen in June. There was a reason they did it in June. They just wanted to do, okay, go, let's see what you got, Joe.
Yeah.
And then they looked at it and said, oh, no, we can't do this. It was just a confluence of all things. You know, Murphy's Law that says, you know, when one thing goes bad, they all tend to go bad.
And nobody could have told Joe, no, give us a chance, let's get our own candidate.
Yeah, no, because no, I don't think so. They didn't have time. Because its own machinery was actually going against him, and even donors had started saying, "Hey, we're not putting money into this."
I've heard that that the strongest voice for him stepping aside was Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
And you know the thing about Joe Biden is that a lot of people have wondered, like, okay, with him, you know, kind of receding back and you know, his mental acumen kind of you know, softening around the edges, who's really running things? And it looks like the person that was really pulling the strings behind him was his wife, Jill Biden.
Yes.
And I feel like she was very the Kamala as a choice was not good, because from what I understand, there was tension between Jill and Kamala from the beginning. And if you notice, there were several times throughout Kamala's campaign when Joe did things that seemed to contradict Kamala. Did you all notice that?
No, I didn't. Did you, David?
Yes.
Maybe I wasn't paying attention. Maybe.
Okay, so here's a couple of things that happened. The first thing that I noticed, and I thought when I saw this, I kind of like, okay, that's just an innocent, you know, innocent mistake. But there was a campaign event where Joe Biden put on the "Make America Great Again" cap.
Yeah.
Right. He put on the baseball hat.
Yes.
And took a picture.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm sure you've seen it. Yeah. So that was the first thing. When that happened, everybody was like, look at silly old Joe, you know. But then those things never stopped happening. The next thing that happened is during the hurricane.
Yes.
You know, the first one, which was Helene, the first major one in Florida was Helene. Kamala was in the governor down here, DeSantis, kind of seemed to be having a little back and forth, right? And it was playing out in the media, where the media was kind of, you know, almost instigating it. Like, okay, Kamala says this, DeSantis says that, come on. And then out of the blue, Joe Biden comes out and does a press conference and says, Governor DeSantis is doing a great job. You know, I really appreciate everything he's doing for the people of Florida.
Yeah.
And at that point, people were like, "Wait a second, it looked like the communication. Everybody's not on the same page here. What's going on?"
Yeah. Right.
and those things never stopped happening. Even to the point of him saying, you know, one thing that was going to be a challenge. This is something that the political insiders who kind of, you know, helped to persuade and to influence them going in the direction of Kamala. This is something that they should have thought about: is how can you take someone who was part of that administration, that's you know, connected in people's minds to recession? How can you brand her in people's minds so that it's like it feels like a fresh start, when she was actually part of the administration that, you know, presided over the economic downturn? And that's something that I think she, like, you know, we already talked about it a little bit, but she wasn't able to break away from it. So what she started doing is she started branding herself as a fresh start. You know, she started using that kind of language in her, you know, she started using that in front of the media, you know, in her campaign events. Fresh start. You know, we need to, you know, we can't afford 4 more years of this. You know, she started using that kind of language, right? And here comes Joe Biden again, another press conference. You know, Kamala has been lock and step with everything that we've done in our administration. In fact, she has been the person leading the charge. And when he did, when something happens once, it's a coincidence, but 2 times is a trend, right?
Yes.
And he continued to do that. Like, even up until yesterday, he came out and said, "You know what? I'm not going to attend her party. I'm not going to attend her election watch party." And so I feel that also probably contributed to her performance. The party was not on the same page.
Wow. Benin is like you breathe politics in morning and all that. Do you have any questions for Benin? You've been so gracious, and that's why we need to consult you. But by the way, let me tell you, Benin, David just reminded me that Martin Luther King was not Democrat, that he was Republican.
That's right. That's correct.
Right. And I was trying to jog around between the Republicans and all that, and he was telling me how people move from Republican to becoming Democrat to becoming Republican, and
Yeah, I mean, it's anecdotally that is, but historically, the Democratic Party actually was the one in charge of the Ku Klux Klan for the most part.
That's right.
Wow.
And so, I mean, even during slavery and that history behind it,
right,
and the torture that blacks used to go through was really under the Democrats. So what changed it actually was in the 60s. That's when it all flipped after JFK died or was assassinated.
That's right.
Lyndon B. Johnson came to power, of course.
Yes.
He took over from JFK. But JFK and MLK, Martin Luther King Jr., were working on a civil rights legislation before he was killed.
Right.
So
that's right.
When he was killed or assassinated, Lyndon B. Johnson picked up from there, and he was very successful in passing that. So from then on, African Americans and those people that were fighting for civil liberties literally switched allegiance almost overnight.
Right.
And it's never changed since then. But Martin Luther King Jr. was a Republican. Yep.
And the other thing, Benin, we are talking about with David here is about devolution and federal. How, earlier on you told me about how we started from the states coming together and bringing up the federal government. But he had another angle to it. What did you tell me, David, before this?
Which
about
one?
the federal, about devolution, which came first and all that in Kenya.
Oh, yeah. So I think in Benin, maybe it's an angle I was coming at from, because I was telling Bishop here that in true sense, American system of government is devolution by nature. Devolution means it's not centralized. So, and then we copied it. Of course, Kenya copied it, and I don't agree with the way they copied it. But when you look at how it devolved between the Federalists and the Jeffersonians or the Democrats, that's how it evolved. And I read your article, by the way, it narrates it extremely well. So the Federalists, of course, they wanted more of a central government.
Yes.
And then they were of the idea that anything that is not enunciated or in the Constitution, it's allowable. It's in other words, it can be donated to the state, or it's power that is donated to the central government. And so those were the Hamilton that set up the economic system that now anchors the United States. But then the Jeffersonians, they just wanted more power, decentralized form of government. But they were able to find a middle ground.
Yes.
But in a sense, that's how the two-party system was set up, just like you have it on your article. But then you come into what we consider devolution in Kenya, which is not, in my view, of course, it's multipartism. Multipartism, we call it. When you look at the nuances, the differences between the two, I tend to feel like this system that we're under now in the United States, it's more efficient. it's more stable. And I think that's how you alluded it in your article, Benin. In these coalitions we have all over the world, I mean, not maybe all over the world, but Kenya, for example, is extremely unstable. Right. I mean, if you don't have a good coalition, but in places like Israel, for example, there was a time in Israel you would have elections every 6 months, every 9 months.
Yes.
Back in the,
right.
That's what because
the parliamentary, that system is different. You're right. It makes it a lot less predictable.
and the economies don't thrive in such systems. I mean, because businesses depend on predictability. How able you are to predict what's going on in the country, the political system, how stable it is, and all that. The rest of us fit into that. So.
You two of you are you are making me look like a student of politics, like I want to go and major in politics, but I will not let you go. You've been to Kenya and you know the role of money in governance, in politics. In Russia we have the oligarchy, we have hegemony and all that. And I know here in America, money is very important in electioneering. I know in Kenya how we do it. How would you say that in your concluding remarks that money is mandatory? In fact, you need money to win. I know that is a sweeping statement.
Right. So yes, you definitely needed to win. Interestingly, in this particular election cycle, I would say that the outcome bucked that notion, because the last time I looked at the numbers, I want to say that Trump's campaign was outspent, like 7-1, something, like that. Like really, the money that flowed into the Kamala campaign was astronomical. But what it looks like is that in a normal cycle, in a normal cycle, whoever spends the most, whoever can spend the most to get a vote wins, right?
Right.
That's what happens in the normal cycle. I think this cycle was just different for a lot of different reasons, and I think we tried to cover as much as we could in this conversation what made it different. Which particularly was just people, anyone that's not like, in an upper income earner has felt the impact of the economy. And I think this is something that I haven't seen in my lifetime before, like this. Like my parents told me when they were around, they told me that in the 70s there was a depression. And that depression was really widespread. So that was before my time. So I can't compare this to that, but I would guess it's probably very similar. So this is this is a unique situation right here where the money is a big part of the equation, but not from the normal sense where it's all about how much money a campaign is spending. Right now, how it's impacting this conversation is that people are noticing, okay, the things that used to cost me, the groceries that went in the cart, like filling up my grocery cart, my shopping cart, used to cost $70, $80. Now it's costing $200. But I'm still earning the same thing that I was when it was costing $70 or $80.
Wow.
So, something's got to change, right?
Yes. Benin, I know you had promised 15 minutes. It's gone to almost 45 minutes. Your time is invaluable. I'm sure anybody listening to this will be very appreciative. And I'm glad that both of you have connected, and I really appreciate your input. You are always my friend, brother, and Benin Mwangi. And do you have any final question for Benin, David, before we let him go?
No, well, yeah, maybe not a question, but just a comment to say nice meeting you. when you what part of Florida are you again?
I'm in we're in Central Florida.
Okay.
About an hour north of Tampa.
Oh, okay. I've been down there a couple of times, but next time you're here, man, come on, let's connect. It was such a pleasure connecting with you today.
Likewise, likewise. The pleasure was mine.
Benin, anytime you come, we promise you a goat. I know you know how to get a goat roasted. We'll do that to you. I value my brother. Stay put and stay safe. And we thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.